So that's Andrew Breitbart talking at CPAC. He was a guest on our show. He joined our panel at CPAC as well. So is this the videotape? This is from BuzzFeed. This is a clip from PBS's Boston affiliate, WGBH. It shows President Obama, but back in his Harvard Law School years, speaking at a rally in support of racial equality among the faculty at Harvard Law School, giving a glowing introduction to Professor Derek Bell, who was the first tenured African-American professor of law at Harvard University. Now, Breitbart's video clip from that introduction then shows Obama's friend, Charles Ogletree, another Harvard law professor, commenting on this clip. Listen.
Open up your hearts and your minds to the words of Professor Derek Bell.
Now, what makes this so interesting when you think about it, of course, we hid this throughout the 2008 campaign, so no, I don't care if they find it now.
This morning is Joel Pollak. He is the editor-in-chief of Breitbart.com. Nice to have you joining us. So is this the video that Andrew Breitbart was talking about at CPAC? Is that it, what I just showed?
That is one of the materials Andrew Breitbart was talking about. And by the way, those weren't his last words, and this is not his final bombshell. This is the beginning of a vetting process that begins with Andrew Breitbart's probe into Barack Obama's time in Chicago and will continue. We're not just vetting Barack Obama, we're also vetting the other candidates. But the mainstream media won't and didn't vet Barack Obama, and that's why Andrew Breitbart threw down the gauntlet there at CPAC.
Okay, so then let's go back to the clips that I just showed. What part of that was the bombshell? Because I missed it. I don't get it. What was a bombshell?
Well, the bombshell is the revelation of the relationship between Obama and Derek Bell. Obama didn't just lead a protest on behalf of...
Okay, so he's a Harvard Law student and a Harvard Law professor, yeah.
That's correct. And Derek Bell is the Jeremiah Wright of academia. He passed away last year, but during his lifetime, he developed a theory called critical race theory, which holds that the civil rights movement was a sham, and that white supremacy is the order and it must be overthrown.
So that is a complete misreading. I'll stop you there for a second, then I'm going to let you continue, but that is a complete misreading of critical race theory. As you know, that's an actual theory, and you could Google it and someone would give you a good definition of it. So no, that's an actual theory, and you could Google it, and someone would give you a good definition of it. So that's not correct.
Well, in what way is it a critical misreading? Can you explain to me? Do you know what explain to your readers what critical race theory is?
I'm going to ask you to continue on. I'm just going to point out that that is inaccurate. Keep going. Tell me what the bombshell is. I haven't seen it yet.
Well, wait a minute. You've made a claim. You've made a claim that my characterization of critical race theory as the opposite of Martin Luther King is inaccurate. You're telling your viewers that, but you're not telling them what it is.
Critical race theory looks into the intersection of race and politics and the law, and as a legal academic who would study this and write about it, he would advance the theory about what exactly happened when the law was examined in terms of racial politics.
That, but you're not telling them what it is.
Critical race theory looks into the intersection of race and politics and the law, and as a legal academic who would study this and write about it, he would advance the theory about what exactly happened when the law was examined in terms of racial politics. There is no white supremacy in that. There is no white supremacy in that. It is a theory. It's an academic theory, and as one of the leading academics at Harvard Law School, he was one of the people as part of that conversation. So that is a short definition of it.
I'm glad we've got you. I'm glad we've got you saying that on tape, because that's a complete misrepresentation. Critical race theory is all about white supremacy. Critical race theory holds that civil rights laws are ineffective, that racial equality is impossible because the legal and constitutional system
what I just
in America
said, the intersection of race
supremacist.
And politics when it comes to
No, but you
under the
said
law.
white supremacy is not part of it.
I'm trying to figure out what's the bombshell.
No, this is critical.
Get back
This
on
is
track.
critical.
What's the
This is
bombshell?
critical.
It's not critical. What's the bombshell?
This is critical. You can't derail this, Soledad. White supremacy is the heart of critical race theory, and Obama knew it. And by the time Obama embraced him at Harvard Law School, Derek Bell had already given a speech in Chicago just 2 months before that caused a sensation, which was about how white supremacy was still the order of the day and that black people were fooling themselves if they thought civil rights and equality were achievable goals. He said this, and one of the people who came to his defense, by the way, was Jeremiah Wright, with whom Bell had correspondence over the years. This is a connection that is very important.
So your point, you're trying to make the point that Derek Bell was somehow a serious radical. Is that what you're trying to say? And by connecting President Obama to Derek Bell, a Harvard Law student, to a Harvard Law professor, the first black tenured professor at Harvard Law School, you're trying to make that connection. Is that the bombshell?
Don't believe me. Believe Henry Louis Gates, Jr., who said that Derek Bell had a blind spot for anti-Semitism. Don't believe me. Believe one of Derek Bell's fellow African-American colleagues at Harvard.
There are plenty of people who debated that theory. There's no question about it. But if your point, if your bombshell is that Derek Bell is a radical? Is that what you're trying to say? I'm just trying to understand what the bombshell is, because I haven't seen a bombshell yet.
The bombshell is happening. The bombshell is happening right here on this program, where we've got a story, and you're not interested in telling your viewers who Derek Bell actually is. You want to come in and obfuscate and tell me that I don't know what critical race theory is, that white supremacy has nothing to do with it, that Barack Obama is just embracing a guy. This is about Barack Obama's connection to a radical legal theory that he didn't just embrace when he was a student at Harvard. When he was a teacher at the University of Chicago, he forced his students to read Derek Bell, including some of the most inflammatory readings, as part of his course on race and law.
It's part of the... You really do not understand critical race theory, number one.
Can I say something as a white person? What are you frightened of?
I don't know.
What are you frightened of?
I don't know.
Are you frightened that some black people are going to do something to you? You have a group of individuals. If you and I were black, we would be madder than hell. But we're not. And so we are white people. There are more white people than black people. And so there's a struggle that's been going on. And so in a struggle, you talk about a lot of things. There's anger, there's resentment. And so what are you frightened of? What do you think Barack Obama is going to do? Is there a secret black movement that's going to start killing white people? What are you talking about? As a white guy.
I'm glad you played the racism card. You've accused me of being a racist.
White. I'm accused of being white. That's all I've accused you of.
No, you've accused me of being afraid of black people, and it doesn't even deserve a response, but let me respond anyway.
Sure.
No, I'm not afraid that black people are going to be violent and take over the country. What I'm pointing out is that there's a pattern in Barack Obama's associations with Derek Bell, with Reverend Wright, and it carries over into his governance because his Justice Department won't treat black civil rights violators the same that it treats white civil rights violators, that there's a racial pattern in which justice is enforced in this country, and it also gives us a sense into how Barack Obama thinks about these issues. At every point in his life when he could have followed the path of Martin Luther King, he threw in his lot with the Jeremiah Wrights and the Derek Bells of the world. And it's important not just because of what Obama believes, but it's important to vet the media. The mainstream media covered this up.
So you want him to take it easy on the white supremacist groups?
That exactly.
Is that it? I mean, I'm just asking. I mean it. I'm just asking.
Why don't you just ask the question? Why don't you ask the question without knowing a thing about me or what I believe? This is typical mainstream media.
I'm just
behavior.
looking at your skin. That's all I'm looking at. I'm just talking white guy.
So you're judging me by the color of my skin.
Yes, I am. I sure am.
Yeah, that's exactly what Andrew Breitbart.
If I could interject,
you're like a video of you watching Rush Limbaugh, listening to Rush Limbaugh, and I release it and say this guy's an idiot because he listens to Rush Limbaugh. It doesn't really say much about you.
I bet you don't even know what time Rush Limbaugh airs in your
community.
I think there's a different point also that needs to be discussed, which is why are we looking at this video in 2012? Why didn't we see it in 2008.
And it was on 2008. It was on the internet for 4 years.
We didn't see the entirety.
Jeremiah Wright was more divisive.
I was following the 2008 election very closely, as you know, at this organization. This video, in its entirety, was not a part of the political discussion.
It was in a documentary that aired right before the election.
Hold on, Soledad. In the documentary, it showed video, no audio, and only small clips with voiceovers. Just the raw video. Why didn't we see this?
Of what? Of hugging Derek Bell, the renowned Harvard law professor, who, when he died...
Hold on. This would be something for the public to decide, not for the media to decide, and I think that that is a worthy discussion to have, which is that the media, as a gatekeeper of information here, did not allow this to be put into the public square, and to say to, you know, for then Senate candidate Mr. Obama, tell us about your days at college. What were your thoughts about that? How have you evolved?
Hang on, Errol, go ahead and jump in. Hey, Joel, stay with us.
George Bush hugged Kenneth Lay, and we found out he was a horrible crook. Well, but I mean,
these would be interesting questions. I actually was on the Harvard campus around this time when they were developing critical race theory and so forth, and it certainly wasn't some sort of radical movement. It was a bunch of professors basically talking to other professors. The students could listen in, the students would participate.
Wasn't this a worthy conversation in 2008?
Hang on, let him finish.
The fact that Breitbart and what's left of his organization now wants to sort of posthumously smear Derek Bell, and then sort of by implication bridge that to into the presidential campaign, I would predict is going to be irrelevant. I mean, we know a lot about this president. I don't think you're going to take the selected snippet from the Breitbart organization and overwhelm what hundreds of millions of people now know about the president from 4 years of governance.
I absolutely agree with that. My point is this. Listen, when I was in college, I was a vegetarian and an animal rights activist, and now I love prime rib. So I'm not saying that this is an indictment of President Obama or Derek Bell. What I am saying is that this is an indictment of the mainstream media that did not open this conversation back in 2008 with the full video, with the full audio. It did not. And we didn't have this conversation for the American people. We didn't broach this to the then candidate, Senator Obama, to discuss his background, which is all fair.
I want to go back to Joel, because when we started, Joel, you said this is one of numerous bombshells. So I bet you and I are going to be talking a lot over the next couple months if you've got a lot of different bombshells. Give me a preview of what else is coming.
Well, I think in the coming days ahead, you're going to learn exactly what Derek Bell was about, what critical race theory was about. And yes, it was a radical movement. That's why Charles Ogletree said that he wanted to keep this video hidden, that he kept it hidden
to an audience that was shooting it, and they laughed. It was, if you watch that clip, by the way, the entire audience is white, it looks like, from the back of their heads in that videotape. It's being shot, and they laugh. You don't think that that was...
Wait, so you want to judge the reactions of the audience by their race? You know, that Soledad would
I'm
count
only
as
pointing
racism,
out a fact. I'm only pointing out a fact, which is when you see the audience, it's a bunch of white people, and he says it's being shot, and he laughs. They laugh also.
Well, first of all, if it was a bunch of white people, that would be the first time an all-white audience had attended a lecture at the W.E.B. Du Bois Center for African American Studies at Harvard University.
You know what? Someone was talking in my ear, so I couldn't hear everything you said. But the question we should get back to is, what do you think ultimately is coming? Give me a preview so that we can discuss it as the days and weeks come ahead.
What's coming is what Andrew Breitbart called the vetting. We're going to go through the past of Barack Obama and the present, the 4 years that he's been in office relating to his economic performance, his encroachment upon constitutional rights, his foreign policy. And it's not just about Democrats. We're going after Republican candidates as well. Anybody who would lead this country has to be properly vetted, and we cannot have what happened last time. I think Amy Holmes is exactly on the money. It's not about the mainstream media deciding these issues for us. It's about citizens deciding for themselves. And if the media won't expose what's going on, then citizen journalists will come to the fore, and we will expose the truth that the media wants to hide.
I'm sure looking forward to all of that coming forward. It's nice to have you. Joel Pollak is the editor-in-chief of Breitbart.com.